All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the broadcast. This is the Tuesday, January 31st, 2017 edition of the broadcast. Thank you here for being with us for another edition of the Global Reality. I, of course, am your host, Josh Reeves. So thank you very much again for being with us. We got quite a few different topics and various things we're going to discuss here on the show with you today, and our usual news items and the rest of it. As I discussed yesterday, everybody is losing their minds right now, all by design and all part of this continued psychological operation that really, I guess, really when this, they've been running psychological operations against the public for decades. But really, you hear people talk a lot about 9/11. You hear people talk a lot about that specific event and what it's meant in terms of what this has been able to, or what the establishment's been able to do since this event, and the many, many mechanisms and machinations that were put into place and allowed to come to fruition because of that one event. It's astounding, and I think that's why, so many people have gotten caught up and wrapped up in the whole 9/11 thing and not been able to move past it, because literally there's just so much in there. But I think that really, as far as like a long continuation and long continual operation and operational psyop that we've been in for a long time, I absolutely think that was the genesis point. That was really they say ground zero, and I think it has more meanings than one, because that was definitely ground zero for this continued psychological operation, not only against the American people, but people all over the globe, because, of course, other countries buy into the lie, and then they act accordingly as well. So everybody is affected by this. But all of it is been designed and been about to, of course, bring down established countries and reestablish these new countries into new territories under new leadership. That's all part of what everybody's talked about for years with global governance and the rest of it. That's really what the plan has been. And, of course, 9/11 was the catalyst for that. And then, of course, the hijacking of what they knew would come up around it, which, of course, was the 9/11 Truth Movement, and the total hijacking of that and turning that into something with a completely different mechanism and usage. It's been designed more to really to uphold the official narrative more than it's been used to bring out any real truth. These people know way ahead of time, folks. They even knew way ahead of time that there was going to be conspiracy stuff coming out around the Kennedy assassination. They love this. They love to feed disinformation artists. You don't think there were people back during right around the time of the Kennedy assassination that were already putting out disinformation on the assassination? Absolutely there was. And these were people that were considered like the truth tellers or conspiracy theorist type people of their time. And even they were putting out, the disinformation began right from the very beginning with that. You always find this, and this is how they keep these things in line. Of course, I go back and remember back in 2006, 2007, when there was talk of Russia. I think they got behind some documentary, 9/11 documentary or something that got made, and there was talk of Russia going to come out with the truth of 9/11, and that, everybody got excited about that. I just keep seeing these, these connections back to Russia, and like stuff I talk about in the Spellcasters with Russia Today, and that connection to the former KGB and the FSB and the rest of it, and then that becoming sort of the truther news outlet and all those connections. It's this psychological operation is continued. I said from day one when Barack Obama was elected that the guy's name alone was a psychological operation, and he was intended to get the right wingers and gun owners and everybody up in arms. Probably the best arms dealer and the best thing for the weapons industry in the past 10 years has been Barack Obama. And this is, of course, what they do. It's the same old shit every time. You give a left wing administration, you get everybody up in arms, thinking that gun confiscations and all the rest of this stuff are going to happen, which they never do. Meanwhile, the gun companies make billions and billions of dollars, and the lefties are appeased because they think there's no war going on because their savior is in office, and they're going to get those gun sales either way. Then you get right wingers in there, and they start provoking wars and the rest of it, so they can get the military industrial complex money going up. That's what it's all about. It's what it's all about. So, of course, the psychological operation continues, and it's important in your day-to-day living. It's important that you remember and always keep in your mind on those moments that you have that are absolutely designed to operate and get you to operate on your emotional level, not your rational thinking level. You just always remember, folks, when you see that thing that Trump does or whatever that pisses you off, or, same as you would whenever you saw that Obama did that piss you off. Just remember, take a moment out of your day when you get that anger. I have to do this too. I'm not free of this. I'm not a fucking perfect human here. Take that moment when you feel that burn and you feel that anger and come in for a moment. Take that moment to remember. Take a breath. And remember that this is a part of the psychological operation. It is designed to get a reaction out of you. One way or the other. And, complacency and sticking your head in the sand like an ostrich and trying to ignore it is still a reaction, and it's still giving them what they want. I see all these memes and posts on Facebook lately. People, and they're right up to a certain point, and then they lose it. They're saying, "Oh, the left's arguing with they're just as bad as the right, and the right's just as bad as the left." And I'm just over here like, "Oh, I'm just going to live my life and just ignore both." And see, that's that ostrich syndrome. That's that complacency, and that is just as bad, folks. It's just as bad as being a adherent diehard to either one of these phony left or right political spectrums. It doesn't matter. So just saying, well, I'm just going to ignore all of it and sticking your head in the sand like an ostrich, that's just as bad. It's just like the atheist is no more of a threat to the establishment of religion in the priest class as someone who's an inherent follower of that religion. Because either way, they got you right where they want you. That's one of the most important things to remember and always keep in mind is, I know it's difficult, but you have to remember that this is all being designed to gain a reaction out of you. All of this stuff. Trump is merely the vessel for these actions that are being designed so that at the end of the day, when all this stuff plays out, they have their scapegoat. I mean, the presidents now, ladies and gentlemen, are really, it's no kidding. The presidents are basically patsies. I mean, presidential patsies. I think that's a term I need to, that I've coined now. That's essentially what they are. All these presidents they're not the trigger men. They're not the guys who put these operations and these things together. No. They are merely the vessel that enacts these things to the public eye so that the real men and the money masters and the people behind the scenes, the puppet masters that are really running the show, can continue on with whoever the next puppet dictator comes in is. Behind the scenes, meanwhile, no one's ever the wiser. They always just continually blame everything on the puppet. Nixon was a great example of that. If you studied Nixon, he was a great example of that. Nixon was a great example of somebody who absolutely 100% was the fall guy and took the blame for the much larger machinations of power and establishment that were behind him. I mean, you go back and study his whole political history and look at, he was in the bed with all of those, the Hunt oil family and all those guys that later went on to form the CMP. That was one of the biggest red flags for me when I first started studying the Council for National Policy, was the immediately finding out Tim LaHaye, of course, Reverend Tim LaHaye, who wrote the Left Behind series of books. You ever seen a picture of that guy? The guy, if you can literally look at that guy and tell me that motherfucker doesn't have a demon inside. I've never seen a person in my life, seriously, I've never seen a person in my life that looks like a demon. And the whole thing about it is the motherfucker is supposedly, he touts himself out to be a Christian or whatever. Look at that guy. You going to tell me that guy is a pure soul? Look at that guy. Look at his, he looks, I'm not kidding you folks, he's one of the scariest looking individuals I've ever seen in my life. Probably the only other scariest looking motherfucker besides him is Zbigniew Brzezinski. Both those guys look like, they look like they have literal dark energy demons in them. They probably do. Thetans or whatever controlling them. It's unbelievable. But the seed money, the startup money for the Council for National Policy was provided by the Hunt oil family right here out of Dallas. And of course, when I first started reading about the Council for National Policy and studying it and learning about it in 2007, 10 years ago when I started the show, that was the first red flag for me. I had already, I came into this stuff as a young kid into UFOs and stuff. And then in the early 90s and stuff, I got into, because I was like 15 before I ever knew, I've told this before, but I was like 15 before I ever knew the Kennedy assassination even happened where I lived. I never even knew about it. People didn't talk about it. It was not polite to talk about it. And it certainly was not polite or even, no one would even bring it up or talk about it. I used to hear my dad and my uncles and stuff, if somebody, be watching sports or playing sports or, somebody would take a shot and miss, or playing basketball and take a shot and miss. And my dad or my uncle would go, "Nice shot, Oswald." And I never knew what they meant, when they always said that. I always heard them saying that. Every time somebody would shoot and miss. Not if they shot and made it. It was only if they shot and missed. So somebody would take a shot and miss and they'd go, "Nice shot, Oswald." And I didn't get that. I was like, well, I don't get that. I don't get why you would say "nice shot, Oswald" if Oswald took a shot and made it. And then that's what I didn't realize, being a little kid. I didn't realize, wait a second, that was their little inside joke about Oswald Oswald was a fucking patsy. He didn't do that. Okay. But, as I've told the story, I got interested in the Kennedy assassination. So that was I spent, like my teenage and early 20 years through the 1990s studying the Kennedy assassination and still some interest in UFOs and stuff like that, but more getting into sort of the deeper end of it with the Bilderberg group stuff, which, there was not a lot of information to be found back then. My early days of researching were spent days and days and weeks in, whatever libraries and stuff like were around where I lived and going through microfilm and all that stuff. So when I found out about the Council for National Policy in 2007, which first spawned my work into The Secret Right and has now led into the Spellcasters film, I'd already knew about the Hunt oil family. My whole life, living around Dallas and stuff, when I was a little bitty kid, to put me to sleep at night, my mom used to drive me around White Rock Lake, and we used to drive out there during the day and at night, and go out there and feed the ducks. It's this little lake right in the middle of Dallas, and I used to go out there when I was a little kid, and, it was especially back then, man, in the late 70s, early 80s. People see hang out there now. It's just not as cool as it was back then, but that was that was where everybody went back in those days, and everybody hung out there. And so I spent a lot of time driving around that lake, and I'd always see this big, huge house always pass by. It was just a big, huge mansion up on this hill, the biggest house in that area. And somebody, when I was a little kid, told me that was the Von Erichs' house. And I don't know if you know who those guys were, but they were the Von Erichs were a famous wrestling family, and they were from here. And like basically all of them died except like one. It was weird stuff surrounding all their deaths, and But as I got older, because I don't, it was one of my little cousins. You know how little kids say stuff. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They just say stuff. And then you're a little kid and you don't know what, you just take it at face value. You're just like, oh, wow, okay. Well, as I got older, I come to find out that house was not owned by the Von Erich Resling family at all, not even close. It was actually owned by the Hunt oil family. And so once I found that out, started talking to people, I got stories, I had people tell, oh, yeah, I used to see Mr. Hunt sitting out there. The guy was like a miser. He was telling he was billionaire even back then, before there were really billionaires. And he was a total tightwad, total cheapskate and stuff. Anyway, I'd found out that he had given the money to the John Birch Society. And the John Birch Society ties in with all this research as well. They're another CIA front organization that's involved, just like the CMP and the rest of this stuff. He had given provided the money to the John Birch Society in Dallas that produced the handbills and the posters that were put up the day before the assassination in Dallas, saying John F. Kennedy wanted for treason and all of these things, listed the stuff that he's done. And so I'd already knew. And of course the infamous meeting the night before in Dallas, where they discussed the Kennedy assassination that supposedly took place at the Hunt family house. So I had already known that the Hunt oil family, I'd already known about their connections to the Kennedy assassination, and that stuff was already established for many years. So upon finding out about the Council for National Policy and finding out that their seed money in the startup was provided by the Hunt oil family, Nelson Bunker Hunt and the rest, and then finding out, the Hunts are Knights of Malta and all the rest of this stuff, that's what set off the red flags for me as far as, wait a minute, here's this group. You're telling me the Hunt oil family put up the startup money for the Council for National Policy, a group that was involved 100% has been fingered to the connections to the Kennedy assassination. And yet so many of their members are regular guests on Alex Jones' show, which is supposed to be a conspiracy show or information show. And he talks about the Kennedy assassination and the cover up and stuff. It hit me like a sledgehammer, because it was the moment when I realized, holy shit, we've been duped again. We thought these truth tellers were the truth tellers. And I start looking at somebody else somebody else has had to have uncovered this before me, right? Somebody else has had. I start looking up. Of course, I did find some, all the old Barbara Aho stuff and some of the posts about the Council for National Policy, but nobody that had connected it directly to Alex Jones and this modern so-called truth movement of people were, oh my God, there's this secretive right-wing group. They meet 3 times a year, total secrecy. They don't admit their membership list to the public. They don't allow any outside news media except media organizations like WorldNet Daily and Newsmax, which are CMP controlled and operated and are tied in directly to the CIA through them. Those are the only ones. And yet here's the Hunt family, who we know for a fact, beyond any shadow of a doubt, are connected to the Kennedy assassination. And here's people that are supposedly truth tellers, and they're involved in this. I mean, that was the first real big red flag for me. And then, of course, with the John Birch Society connections and stuff like that, and then finding out Alex Jones's connection to the John Birch Society, and that's what got him into the information and all the rest of it. I mean, it really was. I can't even put it into words. I didn't sleep for like 3 days. I was just on fire, man, because I thought I knew something. I thought I knew everything there was to know about this, and that's what you have to realize. No matter how much you think you know, you don't know it all. And that's what I do in my films is I create these films that are about presenting information that's never been presented before. And, I tell you, I just, it was really, really a shock. And after researching it and seeing what they had planned, I mean, I knew I had to act. And it's just amazing now here, almost 10 years after the fact, to see how this has come to fruition. And, of course, how it ties in with Donald Trump and his connections. Alex Jones, Council for National Policy, now with the connections into Scientology and tying it all directly back to the CIA. It's been astounding, and there's so much more left to do. As you can see behind me here, we are on red alert here, folks. We are at a level alert red here. I mean, we absolutely have no time left. We've got less than 24 hours left. We've got to raise 100% of our operating costs by 2 p.m. Central Standard Time on Wednesday. We need everybody to pitch in, contribute right now. We don't have any time left. I know people have been waiting to see what everybody else is going to do, but we're just flat out of time. We cannot continue our work here, and all the hard work and dedication that I've put into this craft and all the 6 full-length films I've made in the past 10 years, 2 more on the way this year. We absolutely cannot. We won't be able to continue. I'll be completely homeless. Everything has been put into this work and into getting us where we are now. And where we are now is on the precipice of being really the last lone vestige of real truth and information out there that is not adhering itself to the establishment. And if you are one of those people like Alex Jones and the rest of it, who is now filtering everything through the lens of Trump, just like the people who are filtering everything through the lens of Obama, you are not objective. You are not independent journalism. You are mainstream. You are connected to the powers that be, and you are therefore irrelevant. And there are very few people left like me that are putting out the level of information that I am and the stuff. If you think that you know everything there is to know about, say, what you perceive, that's the thing. What you perceive to be is very often different than what is actual fact. And that is very true when it comes to my documentary films. I guarantee you, even though you think you know everything there is to know, you don't know everything there is to know on the Spellcasters. And I'm certainly not going to get up here or any of the radio shows that I do and give it all the way. That's just not, these films are crafted, take over a year and a half sometimes to provide the information in the best possible way that you can then pass on to people without having to memorize 5 billion different facts. That's really what the films are designed to do. And as I've stated, I mean, they're spending millions of dollars to try and combat us here, folks. We need, literally just a few hundred to combat them to keep this thing going. So we need everybody to pitch in right now, contribute. Everybody who contributes $100 is going to get a lifetime membership to the HD archives. You will also get a signed, limited edition, numbered, there'll only be very few of these, DVD or Blu-ray of the Spellcasters once we get the artwork finally finished to us. And we should be having those sent out sometime. We should be getting everything, I think, ready to be sent out in the next 2 to 3 weeks, hopefully, if the artwork gets here in the next week or so. So as soon as those are ready, we'll start sending those out. If you contribute $50, you'll get 4 downloads of your choice from the Global Reality Download Shop, the audiobooks and the films. If you contribute $25, you'll get 2 downloads. And the highest contributor will get the prize pack that we have. And you can see that at our Global Reality Facebook page and the Josh Reeves Filmmaker Talk Show Host Explorer Facebook page as well. You can also use the donate button at my website if you don't want to use PayPal. It is a PayPal button, but you don't have to have an account to use the donate button. You can use your credit card, debit card, or a prepaid card if you want to go to a gas station and get one of those. But we absolutely have no grace period here. We're out of time, and this is not a drill. We got to have everybody's support and help. I mean, if we had 8 people contribute $100, we could absolutely get this done. We'd be good to go and back with no worries. But we can't come up short at all on this. We have no what's the word I'm looking for? We just don't have anything extra in the account. Being my health issues and not being able to broadcast this whole month has really hurt us. Now that I'm almost back to 100% and feeling good again, obviously if you're seeing me here on this video, obviously that means I'm feeling a lot better. But it's just hurt us and put us back. So we don't have anything else to operate on, because I've been having to spend every available penny I've had to get myself back up to where I am. It has not been easy. And I haven't talked about it, even though I've talked about some on the show. I haven't talked about it a lot. It's been tough. So please go and make it happen and help us reach our goal, folks. This was sent to me by a listener. Pretty interesting, especially as it relates to my information in the spellcasters and the stuff I've been currently talking about. PR approaches to handling Russia and the Church of Scientology. This is from a website called Scientology Money Project. It's sent to me by a listener. Politico.com has a fascinating article this month on Vladimir Putin's efforts to burnish Russia's battered image in America. Entitled Putin's Washington, the article discusses the ways in which Russia has paid high-powered PR giant Ketchum some $60 million in recent years with few solid results, according to polls of what Americans think of Russia and Putin. The artwork for the article shows Putin to be in the same position as David Miscavige and the Church of Scientology. Spending a fortune can't buy a heavy-handed and violent tyrant goodwill or respect. Ketchum created a website called Think Russia to help Russia tell its story. I was struck by the visual similarity between Think Russia and Scientology.org homepages. Both pages feature large lighted buildings at night, are predominated by the color blue, and seek to show how Russia and Scientology are very consciously engaging with the world. One wonders if Ketchum is now doing PR for the Church of Scientology. Despite the enormous amounts of cash spent by Russia, PR giant Ketchum was not making as much progress in improving the country's image as the Russians wanted. Political magazine noted a blindness in Russian leaders on page 2 that bears an uncanny resemblance to Scientology dictator David Miscavige and his PR flags in the notorious Office of Special Affairs. A culture clash wasn't already apparent. Russian officials couldn't understand why publicists weren't simply able to buy journalists or manipulate them. Nor did they listen to Ketchum's pleas to open up to the Western media, let Congress alone. It's not something that comes naturally to them, says Ed Verona, the former head of the U.S.-Russia Business Council, a trade group for American and Russian companies that lobbies Congress extensively. Not all Russian lawmakers are corrupt and there is legitimate lobbying, but unfortunately to a great extent, it still consists of passing an envelope to somebody. In terms of the Church of Scientology's complete cultural ineptitude of thinking that journalists and public opinion can be purchased by handing the right PR firm an envelope stuffed with cash, we need only to offer the Atlantic magazine fiasco as evidence of David Miscavige being both clueless and self-aggrandizing, a dangerous combination for any dictator. Just like the Church of Scientology website, Think Russia also features videos. One particular video grabbed our attention. This video is pitching people on investing hard cash in Russian startups. However, when one clicks on the link to watch the featured video, the video is found to be as private as the OT levels. In related dubious claims, the Church of Scientology unequivocally maintains in its current What is Scientology video that it is based upon 50,000 years of wisdom. The fact that recorded history goes back about 6,000 years and prehistorical pre-writing goes back about 7,300 years. Thus, the Church of Scientology is lying once again. There is no 50,000 years of wisdom. This is just a marketing phrase L. Ron Hubbard made up when he launched Dianetics in 1950. Mathematics. Where? There are no equations and certainly no science in all of Scientology. Rather, the Church of Scientology is an autocracy buttressed by an intelligence agency and a set of coercive psychomechanics. That's autocracy. That's the word. Not autocracy. I don't know why I fucking said it like I know what that fucking word is. The Church of Science. Yeah, you have brain farts, folks. It happens. The Church of Scientology. It really is a great statement. The Church of Scientology is an autocracy buttressed by an intelligence agency and a set of coercive psychomechanics. That's it. They're buttressed by the Central Intelligence Agency, and the coercive psychomechanics are straight out of the MK Ultra playbook. And in many cases, Hubbard didn't even change the wording from the MK Ultra manuals to the OT levels of Scientology. Same thing with his work in Crowley. Some of the phrasing, the words, I show examples of this in the Spellcasters, are very similar to each other, and they even started enumerating their works. Hubbard started enumerating his works in zero, just as his quote-unquote good friend Aleister Crowley did. And you can hear that quote in my film as well, where he calls him his good friend, audio recording of that. So, of course, here it's very interesting showing that the similarities between this PR campaign for Scientology and Russia, and then as I show in the film, The Spellcasters, I show the similarities between Scientology and their books and Trump University. It's almost identical. So to see the three of those now have similarities and to already know about their connections. I mean, the connections with Scientology and Russia go back to the time of Hubbard, go back to the 60s and whatnot, 50s, 60s. I mean, they were using these safe houses that were supposedly for him to transmit the upper level OT levels. They were nothing but information clearing houses where they would take information gathered in auditing sessions and sell it off to the highest bidder, whether it be Russia or whatever country, through the entire Cold War. So, those connections with that the left media keeps going on, and they keep going after for Trump and stuff. Those connections were there long before the election, and you can watch that film. I finished that film in July, and some of that stuff was written months and months before that. So I'd already found the connections to Trump and the connections to Scientology, and then of course that tying in with Russia Today and Alex Jones and the rest of it. I'd already found that stuff long before this. That's when I knew they were using this as a part of their continued political divide and conquer, because all they're doing is just trying to use the scare tactics of Trump and Russia instead of showing the legitimate information and connection. And of course, when are you ever going to get legitimate information, legitimate connections to prove anything for the mainstream media? Very rarely. Lots of talk about the moon all of a sudden lately. All of a sudden, there's all these plans to build new lunar bases on the moon, talking about going there to mine. And of course, if you've seen the information, I know David Hatcher Childress some years ago did a lot of work on the subject. There's been mining. Somebody's been up there on the moon mining for many years. I mean, there's evidence of it. You can see pictures that have been taken across, different years, and you can see where the tracks are left on the lunar surface where big, heavy machinery has been moving around up there. Somebody's been up there mining already. Now, whether that's us secretly or whether that's somebody else, aliens and giant stone balls, big black balls in South America. Is that my David Hatcher Childress impersonation? Regardless of that, somebody's already beat us to the chase, and it could be why, there's been talk of, why we actually haven't gone to the moon, and I don't know, but it seems like they're getting ready to ramp that up. The incredible lunar temple, European space bosses reveal plan for 50-meter high dome of contemplation. Which is interesting because they've already found massive structures on the moon, towers and stuff that sounds like this, It could be a temple like no other, and with a view that is really out of this world. The European Space Agency has revealed plans for a lunar temple to be built alongside mankind's first outpost to the moon. The 50-meter high dome close to a planned moon base near the moon's south pole would give the first settlers a place of contemplation. So they want to, of course, go and start putting bases on the moon. And then there's this story, billionaire closer to mining the moon for trillions of dollars in riches. Of course, there were space treaties passed about 10 years ago where any mining or, any resources mined off planet or out of Earth can be brought back to Earth tax free. That they don't have to pay any taxes on any of that stuff. So of course these guys are trying their best to be the first ones up there. Moon Express, the first private company in history to receive government permission to travel beyond Earth's orbit, announced Tuesday that it raised another $20 million in private equity financing to fund its maiden lunar mission to take place in late 2017. This brings the total amount of private investment to $45 million from investors that include Peter Thiel's Founders Fund, Collaborative Fund, and Autodesk. What may have added impetus to investor interest in Moon Express is President Trump's pick for the NASA transition team, Charles Miller and Chris Schenck. And the leading candidate to become the next NASA administrator, GOP Representative Jim Bridenstine, all support commercial space ventures and manned exploration, including the lunar missions. If successful, the new MX-1 lunar lander from the Moon Express would not only win the $20 million Google Lunar X Prize, but also help jumpstart a new era of space exploration. And dollar to donuts, folks. They try to launch whatever they try to launch these things, they'll die right there on the vine. They'll blow up. They'll be sabotaged. I'm telling you, they are not going to allow, and they never have. They are not going to allow independent companies, individuals, whatever it may be, to launch rockets, go up to space. They're just not going to let it happen. This is all for naught. I'm telling you. But yeah, helium-3, gold, platinum group metals, rare earth metals. You know, I talked about this back in 2000, right around 2013, when my Lost Secrets of Ancient America Volume 1 film was coming out. I had seen the writing on the wall. See, we up until the EPA set regulations, we were actually able to mine rare earth metals in the United States. There are lots of locations, specifically down there in that area around Llano, Texas, where the materials for the rock wall were quarried from, where another actual wall has been found down there that very closely is in description to the rock wall, as well as just the massive amounts of rare earth metals, minerals, more found than anywhere else, are found in this little location in central Texas, not far from Austin. And I talk about Behringer Hill in there. That's where, of course, the uranium was mined for Fat Man and Little Boy. And when I was out there, the water levels were really low, lower than they'd ever been because of the drought. And it was exposing a lot of this. The people there didn't know it was exposing a lot of this uranium. And we were going to little restaurants and eating right around the lake. And I mean, there was everywhere around there. I've never seen this in my life. So many. Everybody around that lives around that area, because most people they have lake houses and stuff, and they come there for weekends and holidays. But there are, locals that live around that area, and all the locals that live around the area have all been dying of cancer. But there are so many parcels of land out there, stuff that I looked at that could be purchased, where mass amounts. They actually said that it was the largest cache of rare earth metals ever found were found there at Behringer Hill. And then, of course, when the lake was built, just like I talk about with the rock wall and all these other ancient sites, what did they do? They built a lake, they covered it up. So I was started talking about then, telling people, to make investments in rare earth metals, but those have sort of dropped off. But one of the things I said was, whoever the next president is, if we get deregulation of the EPA, which I know has bad aspects to it, but the EPA is a criminal organization anyway. I mean, they're another one of these alphabet agencies that's not really there to make things better. They just give that appearance. But what happened was when the EPA came with regulations against rare earth mining, that allowed China to have the grip and the stranglehold on it. But literally, there's billions of dollars that could be made just on land in Llano, Texas, if they start deregulating the mining of rare earth metals in this country. So we'll see. Let's see what else we have here. All right. Give me a second here, folks, as I'm going through all my stories. Got so much news here piling up. Let's see. Already covered that. Bear with me here as I go through all this stuff. That article's there twice. Police seize 3,500 stolen artifacts and arrest 75 in suspected art trafficking ring. Now, that's interesting they would give the article that headline because art trafficking ring makes it sound like these guys are fucking trafficking stolen Picassos or something. And really what this is ancient artifacts. So again, another example of the media complicity with the cover-up of this ongoing widespread collection and looting of ancient artifacts that are then being withheld and traded privately to keep them out of the hands so we don't glean information from these things now that we have a much broader reference point for things. I've talked about this before, 50, 60 years ago, before genetic engineering and the rest of this stuff, people didn't really have an understanding or a handle on these things when they would look at ancient artwork. Very different now. So our advanced technology has actually given us the ability to be able to understand some of these ancient artifacts a lot more than we would have 50, 60 years ago, and the powers that be know that 100%. Several of the seized objects are of great cultural importance in the archaeological world, such as a marble Ottoman tombstone and a post-Byzantine icon depicting St. George. Authorities said they had secured up to 500 archaeological objects alone in the southern Spanish town of Murica. Like Murica? I live in Murica. Including 19 that were taken from the local archaeological museum in 2014. More than 400 coins from different periods were also seized. The multi-international investigation named Operation Pandora, that's an interesting title, started in October and the arrest began in November. That's an interesting title. Of course, these, many of the artifacts that were stolen from the Iraq National Museum during the invasion in 2003, many of the ancient Sumerian seals and tablets were found. Some of them were found near an Air Force base in North Carolina on the side of the road. Many of them were found, surprise, surprise, to have wound up somehow at the Vatican. Oh, you don't think the Vatican would have any vested interest in wanting to seize ancient artworks and keep information from us, would you? No. Not the good, loving Vatican. They would never do anything bad like that. Right. Oh, surprise, surprise. I bet there's another one I bet everybody's really shocked by this one. Former KGB general who helped MI6 spy compile the dirty Donald Trump dossier has been found dead in the back of his car amid claims of a Kremlin cover-up. Well, nothing to see here, folks. Just keep on going. Nothing to see here. Move along. No. Yeah, this Russian guy happens into. It's organized crime, folks. Organized crime and big business run the world now. And Trump and Putin are connected at the hilt to organized crime. Organized crime runs Russia. And these guys who started out as, petty thugs and worked their way up through the ranks with untold, who knows how many people have died, as a result of the operations of these guys. And of course, here we are. They come out with the dirty dossier thing comes out, and everybody's, didn't it say something about, I didn't read it or anything, but I heard something about, didn't it say something about Trump like to pee on people? He was into golden showers or something? That's fucking hilarious. Hey, whatever floats your boat, man. I'm not hating on him on that, whatever. I'm not into pee play or poo play, but hey, maybe the Donald is. That seems to be a common theme. I mean, Bush was into the scat play too. He had a fucking scatological nickname for everybody. Turd Blossom and Brownie, and I mean, good God. So yeah, that it doesn't surprise me. But of course, now this guy was fucking offed, and the guy that was directly connected to it. I mean, that's just so hilarious. No, nothing to see here. No, if there's nothing to that, why does this guy end up dead? That's the thing. If it's just this info, if it's just lies, if there's nothing to it, why does this guy end up dead? Par for the course, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? Manhattan DA's office probing death of reporter with possible JFK ties. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office is looking into the mysterious death 51 years ago of newspaper writer and What's My Line star Dorothy Kilgallen, who was investigating the JFK assassination. That's one thing I've always thought was going to be something that would eventually reveal new facts and clues and whatnot on the Kennedy assassination. That is some of the, not just the death of Kennedy himself, but many of the suspicious deaths of individuals directly and indirectly connected to the assassination. I mean, there's just so many of people that were, there, witnesses and whatnot, people who saw stuff before and after the shooting, wound up dead very shortly afterwards. People who were around Oswald and Jack Ruby in the days before the assassination wound up dead. So I've kind of always thought that it would be somebody, somebody's family member or something, who died mysteriously connected to the Kennedy assassination that may be the linchpin that brings out some information. So this is very interesting. The stunning development comes after a new book, The Reporter Who Knew Too Much, suggests Kilgallen was murdered to shut down her relentless pursuit of a mafia don linked to JFK and Lee Harvey Oswald. John Valero, a spokesman for District Attorney Cyrus Vance Jr., confirmed that a staffer has read the book and reviewed a letter from author Mark Shaw citing new leads, medical evidence, and witnesses overlooked when Kilgallen, 52, died suddenly on November 8, 1965, at the peak of her career. I'm hopeful DA investigators will probe any records available and interview witnesses still alive today who can shed light on what happened to this remarkable woman. Victims have rights whether their name is Dorothy Kilgallen or Dorothy Doe, and Kilgallen was denied justice in 1965. That's why I'm fighting for her. Shaw said he received dozens of emails from readers demanding an official investigation. One called her a patriot who should be revered for risking her life to solve the JFK assassination. Kilgallen, who wrote a widely syndicated column for the New York Journal American, was the only reporter ever to interview Jack Ruby, who shot Oswald, and published Ruby's closed-door testimony to the Warren Commission before its official release. Well, there you go. That's boom. Wrap that up, put a bow on it. That's it right there. She talked to Ruby. She was the only one that made her security risk. Who knows what Ruby told her in confidence that she didn't put in her article, or that she may have written down somewhere else or had audio recordings of, whatever. Because they had Ruby, they had him under lock and key. They wouldn't let him talk to anybody. And the reason they wouldn't let him talk to anybody is because, see, up until the point, he didn't even realize that he was made a patsy himself, essentially. He thought he was going to be branded a hero for killing Oswald and that he wouldn't even do any time. Because he had, everybody in the Dallas Police Department at that time was on the take. Ruby had everybody in his pocket. He was connected to the mob. So she was probing the mob connections. And, people have made a lot about those mob connections and whatnot. And certainly there are mob connections. But to say that the the mob pulled off the Kennedy assassination is absolutely ridiculous. They don't have sharpshooters of that caliber in the mob. Or at least back then. Maybe they do now, but at least back then in that time in the 1960s, no. There absolutely were connections, but of course those connections, here's the main reason. The mob have been on the CIA payroll since the advent of the CIA as well, and probably going back even farther than that, back to the OSS and the rest of it. These guys are all working hand in glove. So I don't doubt that they probably use some connections there, but probably what happened is that Ruby, because Ruby once he realized that he wanted to talk, he wanted to spill the whole beans. They kept him under lock and key until he died, I think, of cancer or whatever, died in his cell. Wouldn't let him see anybody, wouldn't let him talk to anybody. He wanted to spill the whole entire beans once he knew that he got fucked. So I'm sure that he probably related to her his connection, because everybody knew Jack Ruby was in with the Marcellos and all the rest of the mob, Italian mob at that time. And he owned, he owned clubs and restaurants. The mob was big in Dallas at that time. I mean, it's still here, but he basically had these mob run clubs and businesses and whatnot. So I'm sure that that's probably what the information that got her killed was, probably Ruby relating to her, the connection to him, the mob, the CIA, Oswald, all the rest of it. Her enemies ranged from Frank Sinatra to FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover. Well, again, hey, Frank Sinatra. People always take Frank Sinatra like he was some, old Blue Eyes, some saint or something. Dude, that guy was Knights of Malta. He was involved with the CIA, with the mob. A lot of that stuff's come out at this point, but yeah, there's definitely been stuff that's connected him with Kennedy and the rest of it. The morning after Kilgallen appeared on the hit TV game show, she was found dead in her Manhattan apartment, naked under a robe and still in makeup. The medical examiner ruled it an accidental mix of booze and sleeping pills. But Shaw contends Kilgallen was drugged. He cites a powdery residue on a glass by the bed. And records obtained from the National Archives showing 2 additional barbiturates in her system. There was no evidence to show that Kilgallen was a drug abuser. Despite the odd death scene in heavy doses, there was no investigation. Former ME, medical examiner toxicologist Dr. Stephen Goldner told Shaw the mafia controlled the Brooklyn Medical Examiner's Office, which inexplicably conducted the Kilgallen autopsy, even though her death occurred in Manhattan. Yeah, that's always the case. It's always the case. The medical examiners are always get bought. It's the same thing with the Kurt Cobain thing. It's clear that he was murdered. The forensic evidence on the scene does not support a suicide, especially when you look at the fact, look at the gun. Look at the gun. I've had gun experts, I've shown gun experts pictures of this gun, and they just laugh. They're like, that little dude did not shoot himself with that gun. And not only that, the shell, the way he would have to flip it around to pull the trigger, the shell ejected out of the gun on the wrong side. It was on the floor. It ejected out on the wrong side. It was still laying there. And, the autopsy reports and all this stuff was botched. All this stuff never got released. And then it come to find out that the medical examiner in Seattle, the person who was going to do Kurt Cobain's autopsy, was one of Courtney's fuck buddies that she gave heroin to. He's now dead as well. So that's how they always do it, man. They get the medical examiners on the take, and then they can get whatever results they want. That plays in big time. And of course, the CIA does that. But again, when you consider the fact that the mob and the CIA and all these are one and the same, you can see how they get this done. if the wrong people knew what I know about the JFK assassination, it would cost me my life, she said to a hairdresser, Charles Simpson, one of several witnesses who gave videotaped interviews unearthed by Shaw. So what was that quoting? If the wrong people knew what I know about the JFK assassination, it would cost me my life. So she definitely found those connections, and I'm sure that's what Ruby confided into her, and now it makes sense why she was killed. I didn't know about. She was the only person that spoke to Ruby. So if she was the only person that Ruby got to speak to when he was ready to run his fucking mouth and sing like a canary, there ain't no telling what the fuck he told her. He probably told her everything, and that, of course, is why they offed her. Another story about the moon here. Lots of focus on that lately. Oxygen in Earth's atmosphere has been traveling all the way to the moon for billions of years. Does that mean you can breathe up there? We can learn a lot about the 4.5 billion year history of our planet by studying Earth, but it doesn't tell us everything. The good news is there's other places we can look. A new study has shown secrets of the history of life on Earth might be preserved in an unusual place, the moon. Of course, everybody knows the moon was actually another planet that had a cataclysm befall it and everything was ripped away from, whether it was Tiamat, which some people speculate on, or not. But that's why it's the explanation behind the strange orbit and how the orbit of moons, if you look at the normal orbit of moons versus what our moon is, ours is geosynchronous like a satellite. And I think that's because, much as I talked about yesterday with people thinking about the wall in terms of trying to keep people out instead of thinking about it in terms of trying to keep people in. You know, you heard about L. Ron Hubbard, of course. He discusses in OT Level 3 of Scientology, where he coins the term prison planet that later Alex Jones took. The only two examples of that term being used, the coining by L. Ron Hubbard and then later the naming of his website by Alex Jones. Funny how he names all his websites after either Scientology stuff or Mind War, words out of Mind War documentation, Psychological Operations by Michael Aquino. Not a coincidence there, ladies and gentlemen. But now all of a sudden they're changing this whole tune around and moving it back towards, well, we know that the orbit of the moon, we're looking at it from the wrong perspective. I'm trying to figure out a way to word this. We think about, us being the center or whatever. And really what the way of looking at it should be is that we are actually a moon for this other planet. So our orbit reflects us, the orbit around where our planet was actually the moon for this other planet, which is rumored to be Tiamat. Supposedly Tiamat was this water planet that was destroyed in a cataclysm, and all the water from this water planet, because it used to be like looking at Tatooine, it looked like there was two suns, because when the sun would reflect off Tiamat, being a water planet, it would shine from the reflection of the sun on the Earth, and it would appear in the sky that there were two suns on Earth. And a lot of ancient writings and ancient texts talk about when there was two suns visible from Earth. And this cataclysm comes down, and all the water, after it hits Tiamat, comes rushing to Earth, causing a great flood cataclysm. And then after that, that's when you start to see the changing of life forms and sort of the reestablishment of Earth. All a part of this continued hidden history. Earth is headed for orbital war unless a new constitution for space is created, experts warn. Again, this is all part of the establishment of space-based weapons. That's when the true quote-unquote prison planet will come into being. First thing is to get those walls put up. Then the next thing is to sell people on the idea of the establishment of space-based weapons under the guise of meteorite and meteor and asteroid threats, and then extraterrestrial threats. But again, just as Warner von Braun talked about, it's all going to be a lie, so they can then weaponize space and point those weapons right back down at Earth, thus basically creating a planet where we're all stuck here. And if you don't like it, they eliminate you from space. And this is what goes, I think, a long way to also, while simultaneously, as far as trying to develop and weaponize space, they are also trying to create these off-Earth colonies. The elite absolutely want to go off Earth and leave us all here. There's no, they've talked openly about it. Space exploration is governed by a complex series of international treaties and agreements which have been in place for years. The first and probably most important of them celebrated its 50th anniversary on January 27th, the Outer Space Treaty. This treaty, which was signed in 1967, was agreed through the United Nations, and today it remains as the Constitution of Outer Space. It has been signed and made official or ratified by 105 countries across the world. The treaty has worked well so far, but challenges have increasingly started to crop up. The Outer Space Treaty, like all international law, is technically binding to those countries who will sign up to it. But the obvious lack of space police means that it cannot be practically enforced. So a country, individual, or company could simply ignore it if they wished. Implications for not complying could include sanctions, but mainly a lack of legitimacy and respect, which is of importance in the international arena. So that's all they get, a lack of legitimacy and respect. Shit. Well, then that tells you what we already know. Then they have been racing to get this motherfucker weaponized in secret for many years, and many of the stuff we've seen, like the X-37B and all the rest of that, are all a part of this. I mean, it's no question that Barack Obama spent more on space-based weapons budgets during his time in president than any other president before him. And yet it's been largely underreported by the media, but you can go and check the yearly budgets and see these allocations for yourself. So that's what it is. Everybody knows it's the Wild West up there. The technology's gotten to the point. Everybody knows this is going to be the next level of control, and everybody's racing for it. And I think this explains why we've seen so many fireballs and space junk and the rest of this, because people are just pumping it full of space-based weapons up there. Not everything's succeeding. Some stuff's getting shot down, and we just write it off to meteorites and space junk now, don't we? Are Earth's magnetic poles about to flip? Experts warn change is overdue and could cause chaos in everything from solar protection to animals' internal GPS. And yeah, I've talked about this for many years. Now, I don't believe it's going to cause cataclysms and, that kind of stuff as people like talk about Nibiru doing and what the rest of it. But absolutely, we are way overdue for a magnetic pole reversal. And several years ago on the show, I reported about how airports in Florida have to repaint their stripes because they can already see how it's already flipping and moving around. Now, whether this is going to cause cataclysms, there's no evidence to support that, but we are due, and nobody really knows what the outcome or results are going to be from this. So it gives the powers that be a very interesting opportunity to be able to piggyback things like, EMP pulse weapons and the rest of it to coincide with the magnetic reversal of the planet, and gives him a confident scapegoat for being able to, use electromagnetic pulse weapons on countries, blame it on this magnetic field flip. I mean, this is the stuff that you're going to be seeing in the coming decade. It's not just about what we're seeing and what's happening right now. It's what we're going to be coming and seeing in the next 10 to 20 years. The Earth's magnetic field surrounds our planet like an invisible force field, protecting life from harmful solar radiation by deflecting charged particles away. Far from being constant, this field is continuously changing. Indeed, our planet's history includes at least several hundred global magnetic reversals, where north and south magnetic poles swap places. So when is the next one happening, and how will it affect life on Earth? During a reversal, the magnetic field won't be zero, but will assume a weaker and more complex form. It may fall to 10% of the present-day strength and have magnetic poles at the equator, or even the simultaneous existence of multiple north and south magnetic poles. Geomagnetic reversals occur a few times every million years on average. However, the interval between reversals is very irregular and can range up to tens of millions of years. There can also be temporary and incomplete reversals, known as events and excursions, in which the magnetic poles move away from the geographic poles, perhaps even crossing the equator before returning back to their original locations. The last full reversal, the Bruns-Matayama, occurred around 780,000 years ago. A temporary reversal, the Lashkamp event, occurred around 41,000 years ago. It lasted less than 1,000 years, with the actual change of polarity lasting around 250 years. The alteration in the magnetic field during a reversal will weaken its shielding effect, allowing heightened levels of radiation on and above the Earth's surface. Were this to happen today, the increase in charged particles reaching the Earth would result in increased risk for satellites, aviation, and ground-based electrical infrastructure. Geomagnetic storms driven by the interaction of anonymously large eruptions of solar energy with our magnetic field can give us a foretaste of what we might expect with a weakened magnetic shield. But the truth is, no one really knows how it would affect us, because none of these have ever happened since the advent of modern society. I mean, skyscrapers, buildings, all this stuff. Nobody really knows. So just as I get suspicious about things where they're constantly fear-mongering them and over-fear-mongering them and over-emphasizing them, those things where you can tell oftentimes are some sort of psychological operation or something that is getting you to believe something one way or the other, I also become very suspect for things that they downplay and try to not fear-monger. That's also another red flag, and I think that's been one of the major things surrounding the idea of a magnetic pole reversal happening has been just the unknown and the fact that we really just don't know for sure what's going to happen in that situation. So the fact that they've sort of been downplaying that and trying to not make a big deal out of it, because you understand what I mean? I mean, there's really normally something like a magnetic pole reversal type situation would be something that you would see them fearmonger, because then it could help them achieve agendas and get people to believe in certain things that aren't true, kind of like phony global warming and the rest of it. But the fact that they're not really saying much about this, just kind of warning people that we're due for it, very interesting. Keep your eye on that stuff. Hacker Collective Anonymous issued global call to action against the U.S. demanding travel bans, de-investment, and sanctions. The hacking group Anonymous has called for action to stop the, quote, tyranny of Trump's presidency. One of the collective's main Twitter accounts posted a message on Tuesday, which included the hashtags BDS, the U.S., meaning boycott, divest, and sanction. Anonymous has called for U.S. citizens to face travel bans and U.S. products to be boycotted. Of course, if you didn't already know this and you haven't already figured it out by now, Anonymous is yet again another one of these CIA-controlled organizations. This is not a real group of real people doing this. They are absolutely sanctioned by the CIA. That's why they always come out at these opportune times. And it's another part of the controlled opposition. That's one of the main things people have to remember during this time of the Trump presidency is all about controlled opposition. Because just like, so many of the people that Jew this and everything's the Jews, so many of those people, when you actually trace them back and investigate them, they all end up being Jews themselves. Because people say, well, why would they attack themselves? Why would they? Because that's how they bolster their cause, by creating their own phony opposition And then that appears that, oh, see, we're making a difference because they're fighting against us. So a lot of this stuff, yes, there are whack nut, crazy lefty liberals out there who are doing insane shit because they're just following the psyops and following what they're told to. But not all of these, I think, are just well-meaning, dupe, idiot, lefty liberals. A lot of these are definitely controlled opposition, and the people who are buying into it the most are the right-wingers who think everything that they see in the phony left is real, just like a lot of the phony stuff on the phony right was controlled opposition when Obama was in office. So, again, don't forget your fundamentals, and one of the fundamentals of this kind of understanding and research is controlled opposition. Don't forget the fundamentals. Speaking of controlled opposition, this is hilarious. Facebook officially verifies an Illuminati page in a bizarre move to endorse a, quote, elite collective of leaders. A Facebook page which claims to be run by the Illuminati has been officially verified. The social network's blue tick verification is normally reserved for official celebrity and brand pages, but Facebook have chosen to endorse the Illuminati page, which has over 380,000 likes and boasts in its page description, quote, "We are always watching out for you." The Facebook page announced its verified status to members over the weekend. The Illuminati is grateful for Facebook's dedication to our goals. Many pages claim to represent us, but are not authorized by our organization. Some have attempted to defraud our members by demanding payment for membership, a practice prohibited by our council. Despite the group's rejection of membership fees, members can still buy Illuminati merchandise. There's several of these out there. They're like spoof pages, and the people that run them are 100% dedicated to the long con. There's another one. Let me see if I can pull it up. There's a chemtrail one on I can't remember what it is. International Association for something. And the guys that run it are totally run the long con. They never break character. And they make these posts about ICA technology, and they're like chemtrails, pictures from planes spraying chemtrails and stuff. And here's our new nanoferrite particulate, giving you safer, dimmer skies. And then all the posts are all plants too, all the comments. And all the comments say, "Thank you, ICA, for giving us dimmer, safer skies. Thank you." And then a bunch of them are like, "Oh, how dare you, you chemtrails, oh, blah, blah, blah." It's a big fake. Obviously, the people who make it are knowledgeable and informed about chemtrails, probably just as the Illuminati one are informed about that. But it's a spoof, man. They make it look real, and then people believe it's real, and then it's cool to be to like the real Illuminati page or the real company that's spraying chemtrails. It's a dupe. It's a dupe. It's hilarious. But I know for a fact the chemtrail one is a dupe, even though they never break character. One of them PM'd me or something. I think one of the guys that runs that must be a listener or something, but anyway, I basically sent him a message, said, "Look, I know what this is, It's funny. It's hilarious. This is a con. This is a dupe." And I think their comment was something like, "Thank you, Josh Reeves, for your support." Or that, I called them out on the dupe, and their response was, "Thank you for your support." I'm like, okay, I get it. It's cute. But yeah, I mean, don't think that the Illuminati are going to have in official Facebook page selling their wares on. It's just hilarious. And then what's even more hilarious, they got a fucking news outlet to report on it. That's just trolling at the highest level right there. All right, folks, that's all we've got for today. Again, we are, as you can see behind us, we are at red alert here. We have no time left, and we've got to reach absolutely 100% of our operating cost goal by 2 p.m. Central Standard Time on Wednesday. If it's 2 p.m. and we haven't reached our goal yet, please just go and contribute. Just help us reach that 100% operating cost goal no matter what. And if you see that it's ended and we still have some left. You can go use the donate button at my website, theglobalreality.com. You can use your credit card, debit card, or prepaid card, whatever you want to do. But the only way we're going to continue, folks, is and the only way I can keep going is if we reach 100% of our operating cost goal. We're flat out of time. We have no time left. So please go and act now. And if we get this 100% done, we'll see you back here tomorrow. All right, folks, that's it. Take care.